Hello, beautiful friends. I'm here today with the question of the day, which is how long has it been since you were able to hear yourself? That's a really important question in these days and times because the chaos of the world, the uncertainty, the feeling that institutions that we've depended on or relied upon to be stable and to kind of hold us up in life seem to be crumbling. People's reputations that we've admired are being, we're finding out what's been going on behind closed doors, and it's really, really disturbing, isn't it? But the net impact of having so much focus out there on the external world has led to something that's really kind of a problem inside, which is disconnected. And that source of alignment, what I like to call the inner flame, the place where you find the steadiness in a world that's uncertain and reeling, that steady place, you may feel that you've become disconnected from it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today in this newsletter. When I was working in the corporate arena, I've talked to you already before about how in the last few years that I was there, I really did have a knowing that I was not in the right place anymore. And it was devastating because it was a six-figure salary. I was really good at it. I know that the things that I was doing were making difference in people's lives. Certain people, it changed their lives forever. And in that sense, it was fulfilling. But in terms of being what I wanted to do and spend my life doing, in the latter days of that was no longer true, and it showed up for me like having trouble getting out of bed in the morning instead of being excited to go and do my deal that day. I was beginning to have to drag myself, and it was a really bad feeling. And then I was laid off, and I was relieved because I thought, oh, now it's out of my hands. I don't have to quit a good job. They don't want me. They don't want me anymore. And it really did hurt my feelings. And it took a while for the shock to wear off because, like I said, I was good at my job. I didn't expect this to happen, but a reduction in force is a reduction in force. So I was out the door. And I decided, instead of looking for another job that I kind of thought would be more of the same, that I would just focus on building my coaching career. And what I didn't realize was that those years of not listening to that inner voice had really distanced me from it. So that when I went out into the world as an entrepreneur, I was going without this inner sense. My inner compass wasn't guiding me. And that caused me to fall into a lot of fear of missing out traps. I started investing in expensive trainings, thinking that I didn't know enough. And I really fumbled around for quite a while, spent a lot of money on education, which, when you invest in yourself, that's not a bad thing. But I was taking courses in doing things in a way that really didn't fit me either. And so in a subtle way, it turned into the same kind of trap I was in. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't to build my business instead of building my business on the focus of who I am. And there's such a terrible price to pay for this because when you live like that, you constantly keep your body on high alert. You're hyper vigilant. You're looking around for the next thing and the next answer and the next connection and the next, the next, the next. And instead of being at home inside yourself and moving out into the world with that, you end up being so externally focused that this feeling of self really is diminished. And as we've talked about, this this high alert feeling keeps your body in the sympathetic nervous system, which is a fight or flight thing, and it really wears out your body biologically. We are not meant to live in fight or flight most of every day. That's supposed to be a system that's used in an emergency, and then you go back to this centered way of being. But modern life is not that way for most of us anymore. That's this constant feeling of living in emergency, and it burns you out inside, and it burns out your biology, and it ages you faster. And you look older than you need to, and you feel older than you need to because you're not getting that source of vitality feeding your system, feeding your biology the way that it's really designed to do. So the regeneration happens when you're centered inside yourself and when you're hearing that voice. And that's why it's so important that if you are in that position of not hearing that inner voice, that you take steps now to reconnect. But the good news is that as much as you might feel disconnected from that inner signal, it's still there. And as you begin to turn toward it and invite that feeling of reconnection, we you can turn the whole ship around, and that's the really good news, and that's the work that I'm always about, is helping you find ways to turn that ship around. And so many of my clients have demonstrated this to me, that when they find that inner connection again, that they begin to live out of a sense of being grounded and safe. Even though the world outside is chaotic, the feeling that your inner compass will help you navigate and guide you through it's profoundly reassuring. I can't tell you the difference that it makes. And of course, one way that you can do uh, tap into that very quickly is by this heart coherence breathing technique that we practice in our 3-minute practice. And if you don't know what that is, if you're new to my work, there are many newsletters that I demonstrate that practice. But today I don't want to focus on that. Today I want to focus on what I call the listening practice. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it here because um, it would make just for a real quiet, a real quiet video. And how interesting is that? But I do want to demonstrate it enough so that you can turn off the video and spend some time with it for yourself. So it's not a checklist, it's not a 3-step process. I like to start always with you looking at yourself in the mirror. So if that's an option where you are right now, please do that. If it's not an option and you can imagine yourself doing that, start there. And if you're walking or driving, it's not necessary. But the second part is to listen to the inner conversation that you're having with yourself right now. So I will be quiet for a few seconds, and I just invite you to see if you can tune in to the conversation that you're having with yourself right now. So for me, the conversation that I heard and going on in there is, I wonder if this is working for them. I wonder if they're able to do it. I wonder if I've explained it enough. So that's the kind of thing that you tend to hear when you start to listen to your inner conversation. And I hope you had an experience of it. And if you didn't really, then try it when you're not watching something that's outside yourself, because it's really helpful to tune in and listen. And then when you've heard something, especially if it's something disturbing, then go and do our heart practice. So just as a quick reminder, take 4 counts to breathe in, 4 counts to hold, 4 counts to breathe out, 4 counts to hold. And pursue that, 10 or 20 or 30 breaths like that, and you'll find yourself shifting back to that feeling of connecting in this case, to your very own heart rhythms. There's nothing more comforting than the feeling of living your life to the beat of your own heart. So I want you to know that I've been hearing you about this feeling of anxiety, the difficulty of living in the uncertainty and the chaos of the way our world is right now. And I'm building you something that I know is going to help. I'm not quite ready to talk to you about it yet, but hold on another week or two and I'll be ready to say more. And just know that I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about these feelings of fear and anxiety that are getting you down and activating your sympathetic nervous system and wearing you out and burning you out. And help is on the way. So until we talk next time, connect with your heart and see if that doesn't give you a new perspective. Bye for now.